It's really cold here today, and it's like negative a million degrees. And for some reason, whenever it's super cold like this, I get really bad like headaches and I get like stuffy noses. So I have a little bit of the winter crud right now and I'm kind of tired. Yeah, it's like negative a million 25 degrees, I think. I'm here at home. I am not drinking alcohol. I am drinking water. You love what I'm doing. Well, thank you. I haven't left my house all week because it's been so cold. So there is so much to talk about today. My eyebrows are beautiful. Well, thank you. They are not microbladed, by the way. I do them every day. When I say you guys, it hurts your feelings. I say you guys all the time. I say hi guys. That's like that's actually like it's a Midwest thing. So in the South, they say like y'all, and then up here, they say you guys. Well, okay, I get my eyebrows, like, I don't get them microbladed, no. I have a brow girl that's helping me with growth and shape. And we're doing brow serums so that my eyebrows will fill in, but they're still very sparse, so I still have to fill them in every day. Sometimes it's very difficult if I say that I don't have something and then someone will say that I'm lying. I just, you guys, it's so hard sometimes, man. I feel like I'm like up against a wall some days. You are a brow girl. Yeah, so I overplucked too, and the best thing that I've been doing is I have a brow lady that's been helping me. My eyeshadow looks nice. I've been using the, what's it called? The Retro palette by Natasha Denona. That's literally what I've been wearing probably for a couple months. I'm like a creature of habit, so when I get a new palette, I literally wear that palette until I'm sick of the palette. So I love Retro because it's got lavenders and I have brown eyes, and lavenders are like really good for people that have brown eyes. What mascara do I use? I'm doing like lash serum right now to try to like thicken my eyes lashes, which I got from my brow girl. And I do brow serum too, but I use NARS. I was using a Benefit eyebrow or a mascara, but I'm back to NARS Climax. I tried to like try different ones, but I always end up back at NARS. I just love my NARS Climax. She's in spin class, she says. No, I don't wear fake lashes. This filter has fake lashes on it. That's the only thing that's on the filter. So if you see the lashes are longer, that's from the filter. So that's the only thing that's like on this filter is the lashes. No, I didn't think Lauren looked pregnant, and I think it's irrelevant. First of all, that gender reveal was probably filmed months ago. I want to remind you, it is not a coincidence that on the day that news came out about Josh's filings in court, Jeremiah announces that he is engaged, and then news is breaking about the Jana pleading guilty, and there's stuff about Anna and Josh's sentencing, and now Jed's gender reveal comes out. I can't express to you enough how much they do this to deflect, and I'm not interested in reporting on deflection news. A child being born into this cult is what happens every single day. It's not interesting to me. It's not earth-shattering. It's not important to the overall story, and it just takes up time from the real stories. I spoke to someone today that is a survivor of the IBLP. They went to the Alert Academy. They were stuck at the Indianapolis training center for a long time, completely there. Worked and traveled with Bill Gothard for some time. And they told me that the best thing that I've done lately is getting away from the deflection machine, because that just distracts people from the truth, and they use it. They just use it as a distraction. Well, okay, so with Mary, I've spoken to Mary, and I just want to say that she's a humongously wonderful human being. She's got an amazing heart. She's been in my comments, and I think that it's her story to tell. And so, one thing that she and I talked about was it's really important when somebody's ready to tell their story to tell their own story. So that's why I wanted to share that with you. I don't want to share her story. I don't know her story beyond what she said. It's her story to tell. So that's why I shared it. And I think that I feel bad for what happened to her too. So I think in general, it's pretty challenging because you have people that have had to hold on to horrible things for a really long time. And with Josh's verdict, there's just so much more coming out. And, one of the things that I think is just really horrible about this whole situation is that TLC knew. There's no way they didn't know. There's absolutely no way. There's no way. I'm turning comments off. I don't want to hear about the distractions. I'm going to say this again. Sorry about that. I'm going to say this again. I don't care about the distractions right now. Today, a girl who was a friend of the Duggars, and her father, who was a close confidant of Jim Bob Duggars and someone that was in the Duggar home a lot, a man that took care of J.L. Duggar until he died and was the pastor at his funeral, a man that was in the books that were written by the Duggars, a man that was touted as the God, almost a godlike doctor. I had someone in my messages today send me a message today, and they said, this is really hitting home because Dottie Murphy was like the elite doctor in the IBLP, and it was hard to get an appointment with him. And if you could get an appointment with him, it was like getting an appointment with God. That's what they said. They said Dottie Murphy did some stuff. He treated my sister for some things. So then now that girl is worried, did he do something to my sister? Right? He had access to lots and lots of children. He's in a cult where he's the top leader. He's the renowned physician. He helped write the wisdom books in relation to the medical information, which is all horrible. It has no basis in reality. He actually got in trouble at one point while he was working, where he was doing chelation therapy, which he shouldn't have been doing. He did a lot of experimental things with his medical care. And then now reading that he was going into their house and giving medicine to JL rather than going to the doctor. He wasn't a hospice doctor. So what was he doing? Going around and just giving things to people? I'm starting to wonder, did JL actually get cancer treatment? I don't really know. They never really talked about that. But this is a man that was in the Duggars house a lot. And his youngest daughter was a friend to the Duggars. A friend. She was a friend to these girls. She's older than Josh, and she's older than them. She could have been a babysitter. I don't know. But she was in their home. And he was allegedly, think about that. Every trusted person that they had in their lives, in their prologue or in their little thanks on their book, thank you, Dr. Bill Gothard. He's not a doctor. So stupid. And Bill Gothard, the man that's been accused by 34 people of sex. Thank you, S.M. Davis, the man that teaches parents to beat their children into submission, and his grandson is a offender, and his one grandson is a offender, and the other grandson held his stepson's head underwater for 2 minutes, him so severely on the back that his whole backside was bruised. Those are SM's grandchildren. Now you got Dottie Murphy, who's been accused by his daughter of Corporal Hutchinson, who he went to for Josh Duggar for to report him. He's in jail for it's really weird that there's so many just hanging out together and covering up for each other. I don't think it's an accident. And what concerns me, the more and deeper I get into this, is that there's a million stories like this out there. There are, and it's like an epidemic. It's like, this reminds me a lot of did you guys watch the video Spotlight, or the movie Spotlight with the Catholic Church, where the priests were just completely beating the little kids and the altar boys and the kids in catechism and the kids in school, and the Catholic Church was just covering it up and sending them to different churches and not dealing with it. And this is like that level to me. I feel like this culture has Catholic priest level, and it's deeply troubling because these are all in independent churches with limited to no oversight. So anyone can be in a church. These are people that are holy, and, at least with Catholics, and I can say this because I am a Catholic. I grew up a Catholic, and they still have my information as a Catholic. Most of us were in school. We were documented. We had social security cards. We had birth certificates. Civil duty was a big responsibility for Catholic people. That's something that I grew up with. Like you help out in the community. You're involved in your civical duties. You vote. You go to school a lot. You could go to Catholic school, or you could go to public school. You go to church. You go to catechism. Like, we didn't live an invisible life, and most Catholics I know didn't live an invisible life. Like, parents got their kids birth certificates, and they were not skeptical of doctors, and they went to the doctor, and we were vaccinated. Like, there wasn't that. Like that, at least, okay? In this world, they're completely off the grid. These are people that don't put their kids in school. Bill Gothard and two other pastors are who made Christian homeschooling what it is today. And for all of you homeschoolers that defend homeschooling, I think it's important to understand the roots of homeschooling and where it came from. And Gothard is a huge part of the reason why homeschooling is as popular as it is today. And part of that reason was their belief that nobody could teach a child better than a parent. And we are seeing in full detail the ramifications of what has happened when there is no oversight for children in homeschooling. I don't care if you homeschool. I don't care if you're homeschooling. I think children need oversight, and I think children need to be taught to a set of standards. You are today seeing what happened with Bill Gothard's experiment. He has created children undereducated that did not have social security cards, that did not have birth certificates, that were overly, they didn't have proper health care. The children with disabilities were solely neglected, their needs neglected, their kids paddled to until they're bruised, hours spent with their parents being whipped with belts, with, things from the trees, the willow branches, or glue sticks, and sitting there there was people in my comments, you guys, literally talking about how their parents made them go into a back room, and they all sat there naked together so their parents could paddle them. What the hell? What the fuck is wrong with you people? You're literally stripping your kids naked, and the minimum number of paddlings is 18 to 20, and this is normal? Dude, my mom had a wooden spoon that she literally never used on me. She just threatened me with it. That's how scared I was of it. And it was if we ever got it, it was a single swat. And I grew up as a kid in the 80s. This is shit that's happening right now. Everyone knows that corporal punishment is bullshit. You shouldn't be doing it. There's so many better options for helping a child learn and develop and grow. And they still refuse to stop. And now you're seeing kids screaming that this doesn't work, that I was abused, that I didn't learn anything. All it did was make me feel scared. All it did was make me feel horrible. All it did was make me hate my parents or want to rebel more. So if we're going to make change, and if the if the men in this culture are going to stand up and make a difference, they have to denounce the life that they're a part of. They have to denounce those of you that want to make a change, those of you men that want to make a change. You can't just speak out against the abuse. You can't just denounce. You have to denounce the corporal punishment. You have to denounce the whipping of children and beating of them into submission, because that's a huge part of the reason why these kids are so messed up. You are taking away affection from them. You're taking away like cuddling from them. Children are not loved in these cults. Children are they're an inconvenience to parents. They want you to have 1 million of them, but then they don't want your children to be kids and develop and like learn and grow. They don't want your kids to have any access to any single, and it's by design, you guys. It's by design. They don't want your kids to have access to mandated reporters, because if one of these kids were in a public school, they would see the whips, they would see the bruises, they would see the poor dental care, they would see the poor hygiene, they would see the fact that the kids are so fucking skinny that because there's 20 of them and they can't feed them. This cult makes people, you can't use public assistance, right? So not only are they told to have 1 million kids and God will just provide, then if they do have 1 million kids and they can't feed them, they don't get fed because they're told that they can't use WIC and they can't use government assistance. And they know if they use government assistance, they're going to have to document that they have these fucking kids. And it's easier to not document the kids. It's easier to ignore them. It's easier because if nobody knows your child exists, you can do whatever the fuck you want to them. You can beat them. You can assault them. You can rape them. You could kill them and no one would know. What about those kids? The Duggars were lucky because they were on TV. That probably gave them a level of protection, a veil, a tiny window of their lives where they weren't being or whatever. They are so lucky in that respect because there's a zillion kids that are in their culture that didn't get that break, that weren't visible, there are so many stories of kids having to find a way to get a birth certificate on their own after they leave because they have no identity, none. And that's again by design because a parent can control a child that has no identity. They can't leave, they can't get a driver's license, they are fully dependent on their parents, and they're fully disposable if a parent can't deal with it. Their experiment failed. It failed miserably and it infiltrated every aspect of our culture. If you look through the IBLP and you look through their newsletters, you realize how deep this cult got into our politics. Do you realize how deeply Bill Gothard penetrated the government? He had Mike Huckabee, like a governor, a state of Arkansas, pushing his beliefs, pushing his character, pushing and promoting his agenda. He had mayors in Oklahoma. He had people in Taiwan, in Mongolia. He had the Russian government in his pocket. He had U.S. congressmen on his board. They were at the White House. They infiltrated every facet of our life, of the country. This is the reason why you've got Arkansas so heavily infiltrated by the IBLP, Mike Huckabee. Oklahoma, because of their old mayor and governor. You have states, Rick Perry, the governor that was the former governor of Texas. He had a relationship with Gothard. Like when you understand how deep this goes and how many politicians were working on this and how deeply it infiltrated our politics and influenced our policies, and it was bad information. I have said for a very long time that there's a problem with facets of the Republican Party, and I'm not trying to make this conservative or Democratic. I'm just saying Bill Gothard, my foot's asleep. Bill Gothard lied to everyone about everything, and he lied about conservative things. And he made conservatives believe things that weren't true, and they took it as gospel. When you have a party trying to infiltrate and influence your government, and they are doing so with false information, that is so dangerous. So it's not just the Duggars, it was something that was going on for 40 years. And they just lost like Bill Gothard a few years ago from like his scandals, it's not what it once was. But there are still millions of people that were influenced by Gothard that still believe this, that still hold on to his beliefs, that despite the fact that they've left the IBLP, they haven't left the belief system. They might have left the structure, they might have left the group, but they didn't leave the mindset. And you've got Baptist churches, evangelical churches, and that's the other thing people keep saying is like, well, this is only a Baptist thing. No, it's not. He infiltrated, he didn't care. He didn't care what your denomination was. It didn't matter to him if you were Pentecostal, if you were evangelical, if you were a Methodist, if you were a Lutheran, if you were Presbyterian. He did not care. He believed everyone could use these principles and apply them. It didn't matter to him. And Baptists were his easiest target because of the IFB and his connection to a lot of IFB pastors. And the IFB, which was Jack Heil and Jack Schopp and SM Davis and all these fucking creeps that are child. There's a problem in how many people he impacted, how deep his impact went into the government, how deep his impact went into foreign countries, how deep his impact influenced not only our government, but our TVs. So the Bates and the Duggars aren't the Bates and the Duggars. They're spokespeople for a cult. Seeing in black and white today, finding on their Pinterest that they promote videos that they've produced on the behalf of the IBLP, and then the Duggars and Bates put it out on their social media, which they use for their shows. And then they tell people to come, knowing that every week there's millions of people tuning into them. Jim Bob Duggar filled stadiums and filled conferences because of like the show. And then Gil Bates was helped to get a show by Jim Bob Duggar. Jim Bob Duggar helps Gil Bates finish his house because he was poor and he couldn't finish it. Jim Bob Duggar helps Gil Bates get his own show. Gil Bates then also starts promoting for the IBLP. Gil Bates owes a lot of his success and his wealth to Jim Bob Duggar. The reason why Gil Bates will never speak out against Jim Bob Duggar is because Gil Bates would not have what he has without Jim Bob. There's a loyalty there. So there's no Bates are better than the Duggars. The Bates are cleaner than the Duggars. They're not. They are just as messy. They're just as deep into this cult. They're promoting it. Gil's on the board. I mean, every day that you tune into them and you buy into their propaganda and you care about their stupid gender reveals and you give a shit about their weddings and their engagements and any of that, you're giving the cult attention and you're giving the cult like clout and relevance. And like literally when I started doing this reporting, this was not about the Duggars. This was not about the Bates. I'm not obsessed with the Duggars. I am obsessed with the abuse that's happening in this cult. And the Duggars are the most visible family in this cult. And they are the only reason people will tune in to listen. So if we can dismantle a cult by getting your attention to talk about the Duggars and what's happened in their house, for you to realize that the Duggars and the Bates are part of a machine of a cult that's trying to recruit you into a world where women sign contracts with their dads and say that their dads have the right to choose their husbands for them, and they surrender their life until their dad gives them the full release. Can we talk about how fucked up it is that a young girl is signing a contract with her dad and she has to have permission from her dad to be released? What the fuck is that? So I apologize if I don't give a shit about Jed Duggar's gender reveal or Jeremiah's engagement, because it's a distraction, and it's a distraction set purposely by them so that you don't pay attention to the negative stuff. Everything that's happening right now with Amy screaming and yelling at me is a distraction. She doesn't even realize how the cult has played her to make her turn against me. That's exactly what they want. You don't want to be a part of the conversation, Amy. Keep your mouth shut. It's really that simple. I'm going to keep talking about the cult and the abuse that happens. And one thing that bothers me about the show with TLC is that there was corporal punishment happening then. And I find it very difficult to believe that nobody knew what was happening, because in Arkansas during this time, apparently it's just a lot of parents were doing it outside of even the cult. So if everyone's doing it and you know everyone's doing it, is it disingenuous to go on TV and pretend like you have a happy family when you know the kids are getting whipped? And if you knew and you were a part of it and you knew the kids were getting paddled, like, what does that say about you if you're TLC, if you're a producer, if you're on the show? Like, are you condoning it because it makes you famous, because it's making you money? Do you, like, these are the things that keep me up at night. Like, what motivates people to put on their blinders for morality? And these are the people that are telling us that I'm, as an atheist, don't have morals. They have morals and they're more like God than me. Yet I'm the one that's not selling out my children and would never put myself in a situation where my son would be in a place where I'm selling him and I'm allowing people to exploit him, and it's happening. Like, literally, to have these holier than thou little assholes question and say, well, you're an atheist, so you can't care. Of course I can care. I seem to care more about these kids than you do. None of you who have God seem to give a shit because you believe that hitting your child in the name of God is better than actually cuddling and loving on your child. That's what I do with my kid, is I love on him. So I'm going to turn on my comments. Prepare to get blocked if you ask about stupid stuff. I'm sick of talking about Amy. I'm so sick of it. I'm not going to talk. I don't want to talk about her. Like, Miss Soup, is that literally the only thing that you got out of this entire situation, right? I just go off for 20 minutes about the kids being, and the only fucking thing you care about is that. I mean, no, mcgowan, no. You can't ask a dumb question. Like, the fact that I don't understand how anyone could stand by and watch a child being hurt. I shared the Dottie Murphy link in my stories. Oh, the Kirkwood if you haven't checked out the Kirkwood Bungalows Instagram page, it's super cute. She does DIY stuff. You should check her out. I am a Christian and you don't need to bring levity here, mcgowan. It's fine. I don't know why you always feel like you need to be contrarian. I didn't know until today the connection between the Gothard my mom talked about and this Gothard. You're into tiny house shows. I think Mary is very brave. I know, it's crazy. It's really unreal how many people have allowed Gothard to control their lives. It is. It's so disturbing. And he's been ousted and they still let his teachings control their lives. I think Laura does a lot of things strategically. Gothard is in Illinois. He's like 88. He has not been ever charged with any crimes. Well, I don't think it's the lack of education that hurt the U.S. so badly. That's not fair at all, period. Because you still have to remember that this is a minority of people in the United States. There's 300 million people in the United States. 300 million. You had so many new followers today. That's good. We're not talking about sister wives, wifey. I'm sorry. It is disturbing how they infiltrate the government. Well, because these people like live off the grid. I mean, technically, when your child is born, you're supposed to get a birth certificate. And that's what initiates the Social Security card. And if your child is born in a hospital, you get a birth certificate at the hospital. But a lot of them do home births, and so they're not seen, they're not documented, they don't have anyone, really. They have midwives that are barely qualified. They're very radicalized. Hi, Rachel. We've got some survivors here. I'm not interested in speculating on what Jim Bob has done or hasn't done. You're a survivor. I don't think the Duggar kids have passports. Yes, I did say that the Duggars were saved in part by being on the show because they were exposed to the world, but at the same time, their dad exercises a total control over them. And the Duggars still have cult following, like of people that are so obsessed with them that they will literally show up in my comments and tell me that I'm bullying them because I'm talking about child or I'm mom shaming when child neglect runs rampant in this cult. I think Jill and Derek are taking a break from social media right now. And I honestly think that all of the Duggars, if they really cared, would. And I think when we start talking about believing victims, we need to believe the victims in this cult. We need to, it happens so much in the communities of these people. And I've noticed personally that there seems to be, in most of the families I've spoken to, someone within a family that's, whether they are the abuser, whether their parent was an abuser, whether their brother was an abuser, whether they were the victim. And I've noticed a lot of people like to point a lot of fingers, but then when their child is accused, they then don't believe the victim. So it's easy to get on your pedestal and say, Josh is a monster, or Gothard's a monster, or this person's a monster. But if it's your own child, what are you saying if you find out that it's your child that's doing that? You're protecting them. And that's what happens so much. Like, I was talking to someone that knows Caleb Williams, and they were like, dude, that situation was so messed up. Dad's in law enforcement. He got a slap on the wrist. That girl, he preyed on her. He was like her. He totally manipulated the family. The mother was very naive, and the father was very ill, and he had just had a heart attack and was very sick. And he just kind of like, he was a teacher, and he was like girls, apparently. That's what this person said. And you don't see their families calling it out. They're excusing it, and you have to realize, like, it's always somebody else's fault. It's always the victim's fault. They will yell to hell to high water. They will scream. Some of these pastors are going to try to separate themselves. Some of these churches are going to try, hey, Christopher, I love you. Some of these churches are going to try to separate themselves. They're going to try to say that Josh is a reprobate, that he's a fallen man, that he's fallen in his sin. It's all Satan's fault. And that's it, because then they don't have to deal with it. But then they have their own shit in their own families, and that they don't want to deal with. So they can say, well, Josh Duggar is the problem, but they might be the rapist, or their sons might be raping a kid. It's horrible. And there's no accountability when all they have to do is literally like go to their person they offended and ask for forgiveness, and then repent before God, because they don't believe that you should have to like go to the police. Yeah, they've tried to sue Gothard. It got thrown out. Well, it didn't get thrown out. It's a complicated story. There's actually going to be a documentary about it. The problem in this cult is that they teach the kids not to trust the government. They teach the kids not to trust the police. They tell the kids that they can't trust anyone. They tell the kids that nobody is going to care about them or understand them or anything. And then the people at the church say you can't go to the police, you can't report it, you can't do anything. So will all of these guys go to prison? No. Are there probably a lot of that should be in jail? Yes. Will they ever go to jail? Probably not, because they all cover for each other. That's why exposing it and having people tell their stories is critical, because this problem only exists and only manifests in secrecy. Yes, that's what they say, is that you can't trust the government because they're of this world. That's secular, it's humanist, it's not God's law. People have like a love-hate relationship with Perez. Some people really hate him. I used to be a huge fan of his, like way back in the day. I follow him. They teach the government, God uses the government to accomplish his purposes. They don't trust the government, they want to control the government. That's why they run for office, because they want to legislate and turn law. They want to return to a Christian nationalism state. So they're basically Christian nationalists that want to make everyone have to live under Christian law. That's their goal. And that's why they are pushing for getting into power. I don't care about Aaron Carter. No, Jana paid her fines in full today. Yeah, John David was volunteer constable, because I reminded her of her debt. Yeah. So I just think in general, if you're a man in this cult and there's a little kid saying, Daddy raped me, or my brother hurt me, or this or that, you don't handle it in house. You go to the police and you believe the kid. I'm exhausted. They do run for office to be in control. But again, I just want to thank all of the survivors that are helping me, that are in my DMs, that are offering me all kinds of resources. This is really the first time there's been a lot of people in my inbox saying like, this is the first time there's been actually people paying attention, that people are getting scared, that it's riling up and petrifying churches. Like, churches don't want to be connected to this. They want to cut ties with the IBLP. People want to stop using their resources. Churches are going to need to evaluate why they were involved with them to begin with. You can't just cut ties with something that you felt benefited your congregation if you don't understand that you saw value in those destructive teachings, which results in what's happening. So right now we're working on exposure, burning this thing to the ground. I mean, that's what Mary said to me. I just want to burn this thing to the ground. My dad was a leader. I don't want the IBL. I want this shit to go away. So we'll work on other parts. There are so many survivors that have resources that have shared theirs, that I've shared what I can. I'm worried for all children, not just Anna's kids. I'm worried for all children. No, I don't touch QAnon. QAnon, they're like, no. What you share makes people ask the right questions. You only got out because my husband rescued me. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you got out. No women or children are safe in this cult, period. None of the Duggar kids are safe. None of Josh's kids are safe. None of their friends' children are safe. I mean, here's the thing, you guys. I have to be totally honest. I spoke to someone today that's like still in the IBLP. And do you know what they said to me? They said to me, I think it's just time for you guys to move on. Like, what happened with Gothard was like years ago. Like, leave him alone. Like, let him be. It's been years. Like, just let Gothard go. What? And when I said that this has hurt, I already said Janet paid her fine. When I said to them that there's victims that have been hurt and don't feel like Gothard's teachings are helpful, they said to me, you don't have the right facts. They're lying. They don't have the right facts about Gothard. They weren't hurt. He still counsels people. Bill Gothard still counsels people over the phone. He's still people. He's still. So you mean, to the IBLP person that said this to me, a friend of the Duggars, by the way. So what you're saying to me is that what happened to Mary didn't happen? That wasn't true? Is that what you're saying? What happened to the four sisters and the fifth victim of Josh, that just didn't happen? They have the wrong information on that? That's what he tells people. So when you think about how Gothard tells people like that they don't have the facts right, that's like what Jim Bob Duggar does. He says, you don't know the truth. Only I have the truth. Because Jim Bob learned everything from Gothard. He worships Gothard. I mean, he might not worship him today, but he did worship him for years. And he learned how to be him, what he is today by following those teachings. And they lie. They don't believe the victims. So I don't know what happened to the kids right now. Yep, excuses lives cover up instead of listening to victims. Being a victim doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a victim. Gothard was never in prison. I know it is weird that they did follow him too. These men do need to stop. No, Gothard is not in prison. He's really old, you guys. He's so delusional at this point. I think he's always had I think he's a narcissist. I think he's more than a narcissist, though. I feel like he's a psychopath or something. He's way beyond just a narcissist. No, Gothard did not follow his own message. He was accused of his brother had affairs with 6 or 7 secretaries in the IBLP headquarters. I'm honestly wondering, Laura DeMays was around Gothard a lot, and he liked people that worked for him. So, you found me through Jen from Fundy Fridays. I like her. She's cute. I love Brenda. She's sweet. My timer is going up. I hate Instagram because it has like a 1-hour timer, but that's what I got. Bye, guys.